What's up, guys? Thanks for watching. Would appreciate a like, subscribe, comment down below. Would love to see you engage, and thanks for watching. Okay, so Mamdani, I think, is a canary in the coal mine for a lot of things. And what's interesting about really the breakout of Mamdaniism is that it kind of mirrors this civil war that's breaking out in MAGA, I think. Because the MAGA civil war, as it's been documented, for I think a good while now, I've talked about it a lot on this show. A lot of other shows have talked about it. There is a war on what MAGA is, who is MAGA, who is not MAGA, all these things, and it's breaking out, and it's breaking Trump's base into multiple. They all want Trump's attention, by the way, and no one can. Don't let anyone tell you that they don't. They want Trump's attention, that they want, political civility, all that kind of stuff. And you have Tucker Carlson's taken, Ted Cruz and Mark Levin and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, all these people. And normally I think this is actually very healthy, by the way, for any group of people. Like, you need to have room for disagreement and open debate and discussion. And I think this, I kind of raised that point in the conversation we just had on, Islam in America. And I should also say that the lack of diversity of thought, the lack of heterodoxy, the lack of debate, discussion has turned the modern left into a full-on death cult, as far as I'm concerned. Like, it has turned them wildly radical because you can't dissent. Dissent is not allowed in the modern left. It is not. And if you take that away from the right, you're going to have a hegemonic leviathan of thought. And this is how you get all the crazy woke stuff. Any stepping outside of the boundary and you get struck by lightning immediately. And I think it's healthy that Ted Cruz and Mark Levin and Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene and everybody else, we can have. And this talk about platforming people, I'm recording this on slightly after the Tucker Carlson Nick Fuentes interview. I haven't listened to it yet. I plan on doing so. I've been very critical of Nick Fuentes, and I like Tucker a lot, but I'm curious to see what I find out. I listened to an analysis on it this morning. Jason Whitlock had a great conversation about it with his crew over there on Fearless. Shout out to those guys. But the talk about platforming people and why did you platform this person? It's like, shut up. Like, if that verb of the word platform ever comes out of your mouth, you're a leftist, so shut up. And the second one is, any commentary that says you should not give someone the opportunity to speak, you're no different than the censorship people. You're no different than them. Cancel culture is just censorship. And it's beginning to creep into the right. It has crept into the right. And it's, this, I think the first example of this was Candace Owens when she got canned by the Daily Wire. And it's like, no, we're not doing that. At all. We are not doing that. And so this is what I think is the disturbing part of the MAGA civil war, is that if your unity is divided at its core, just as it is on the left, you will have to look to the future beyond the initial founding of the movement. And really what the MAGA split is all about. Because Donald Trump, for all of his talks about running in 2028, I think it's really funny, actually, how people get so worked up into a tizzy about this. What the split is really about are people who are truly MAGA, and everyone's saying this, so this is not a controversial thing to say, versus people that want to use MAGA as a tool for their own agendas, their own ambitions, their own political futures, whatever they want to call it. So there's all of it, it's kind of almost in a way where it's like, when I was growing up, I had very little diversity in my schools growing up. And I had a couple of black friends who I really enjoyed, and I just saw them as, they're people. And so, but what some people would say, and thank God I never said this, because I thought it was always so offensive when people said this, was it's very similar in my view to when people would say to one of my black friends, and I grew up in a middle-class suburban area outside of Cleveland, was that, oh, you're acting white. Like, you're a very white black guy. And I'm like, one, what the heck does that even mean? And two, it's like that's so offensive. It's like that's such a bad, like that's a racist thing to say, by the way. It's like, you're black and you act like, what does acting white mean? What does acting black mean? It's like, it's so absurd and ridiculous, and it's offensive and all those things. But it's like, you're not real MAGA. You're fake MAGA. You want to use this, blah, 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 blah. And so a lot of this, I'm like, okay, let's get to the meat of the discussion. Like, what does this actually mean? And the way to tell this, and the way to tell the real from the fake in terms of how they relate to MAGA, who's really MAGA and who's not, is to simply, in my view, do an assessment of who is saying something and why. And I think this is true of anything. Like, if anyone has an opinion, like, why are they saying that, and what are they saying, and who is saying that, all that stuff matters. And so, I was listening to Tucker talked to Marjorie Taylor Greene a couple weeks ago, and I listened to that, I think over the weekend it was. And Tucker made this point, and Marjorie Taylor Greene made this point too, about if someone hates everything that Donald Trump says he wants to do and then does the opposite, that person's not MAGA, obviously. That's why so many of the people in D.C. that are sucking up to Donald Trump right now, so many of the media people that are sucking up, the Fox News types that are sucking up to Trump right now, that's what they want to use MAGA to further their own agenda. That's why Ted Cruz, Mark Levin, Lindsey Graham, they're all fakers. They're all fakers. Because they do nothing but talk out of both sides of their mouth about everything. Every time, like they're not MAGA, but they're too, and by the way, all of them are too afraid to say it to Trump's face. They love to put out tweets. They love to go on podcasts and say that, like, Tucker Carlson's an anti-Semite or something, which he clearly isn't. But they will never have the guts to say it to Donald Trump to his face. At least Tucker and Marjorie Taylor Greene talked to Donald Trump. And apparently Mark Levin's been to the White House a couple times, and I'm sure Ted Cruz said talk to Trump about some Senate stuff or whatever. And, God help me, he's in my state. So, that's great. But anyways, what this is about, at the end of the day, I don't want to get too deep into this because I think the whole discussion is really stupid, to be honest, but I thought it was interesting to compare with the Mamdani thing, is what this is really about is about power. And it's who controls the future of MAGA. Like, I don't know if Donald Trump's going to make it through this term. There's a lot of stuff about his health going on right now. I don't know if any of that's true, by the way. I have no inside baseball. But I don't know how long Trump is going to live after he finishes his term, and hopefully he lives for a long time. I like Donald Trump, and I want everyone to live to a good old age and all that stuff. But after Trump leaves and he cannot have and hold political office anymore, it's going to matter who inherits MAGA. It's going to matter a lot. It's the most significant political movement, I think, in probably about at least half a century, if not longer, probably longer. And what these people are seeing in the MAGA movement, they're seeing what's happening to the left, and what's happening to the left with Mamdani, with AOC, with the squad, with all the radicalism over there, and they don't like it. And the reason why is that our elites are basically a uniparty. They're not different really in any other ways but the names they wear on their jerseys. And I think a lot of that's dying, and we're at least getting more authentic people. Like I praise God for that in a way. But they're really not any, like the older folks, like the McConnells and the Pelosi's and the Lindsey Grahams and the Dick Blumenthals and all the folks up there. They're really not that different from one another, except for, they're a Democrat, quote unquote, they're a Republican, quote unquote, which really doesn't mean anything anyway, by the way. But the main goal is to stay in and increase their power and control, which they can do and which they have done by hijacking institutions like MAGA is the latest one that's being warred over to make it so. They did it with education. They did it with government. They did it with, every possible institution you could probably, suffice to say. And I think we need to be aware of this, and we need to stop it. Because who controls the levers of power, the institutions, is who controls the future. And we cannot let them fall into the wrong hands. Because if they fall into the wrong hands, like, it's over at that point. Like if Ted Cruz is going to be the arbiter of MAGA going forward, like we've lost the plot. And we've just lost the plot. And we cannot by any stretch of the imagination let that happen at all with anything, but especially with something that means so much to so many people.